YouTube, what's going on? Welcome to the Off the Schneid 2020 NFL Preview Series, where I'll be going over all 32 NFL teams, breaking down their rosters, their schedule, giving you a record prediction, as well as helping out with some betting tips. If this is your first time at the channel, do me a massive favor, hit that like and subscribe button, turn on notifications, and check the description for links to social media for Off the Schneid. Follow us on there as well. I want to give a massive shout out to OurLads Scouting Services and OurLads.com for helping me to make these videos. I'm on their website almost daily, and if you're a serious football fan, guys, you need to have this website bookmarked, favorited, whatever it is. Helps me at draft time, fantasy football purposes, when creating bet slips, as well as DFS lineups. It's your one-stop shop for NFL scouting services. There's a link in the description for OurLads.com as well as the social media. Do me a favor again, hit that like and subscribe button. But enough of that. Let's get to your favorite NFL football preview. All right, let's take a look at the Baltimore Ravens. They had the best record in the NFL last year, 14-2. I don't see a ton changing. They got significantly better in free agency and the draft. So let's take a look at their depth chart. Start a quarterback, most important position in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, reigning MVP, do it all, 1,200 yards rushing, 3,100 yards passing, 36 touchdowns passing, 7 touchdowns rushing. And I know there's a lot of people saying that they think he's going to, regress, or, he's going to get hurt and all this kind of stuff. I just don't see it, man. I see Lamar Jackson being a stud and being one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL for a lot of years. I think he runs pretty smart. And hopefully he continues to run smart and even smarter, sliding, get out of bounds, throw the ball away, that kind of stuff. Prevent himself from taking any unnecessary damage and hits and stuff like that. So for me, I'm sitting over here, and I honestly think that Lamar Jackson can increase his stats and take another step forward this season. And call me crazy, but he sat out one game. He only played 15 games last year. Here's a couple things that are going to kind of accentuate my point. So in 2019, in 3 games, he threw for 0 touchdown passes. In 3 games, he threw for 1 touchdown pass. And in 3 games, he threw for 5 touchdowns. So you tell me there's not a little bit of inconsistency there that can kind of level out. The games that he didn't throw a touchdown pass, he throws maybe 1 or 2. The games he threw 1, he throws maybe 2 or 3. 5 maybe comes back to 4 or 5, something like that. And at the end of the day, that's going to increase his touchdown total. So, and I mean, 7 touchdowns rushing, that's actually pretty light considering he ran for 1,200 yards. Set a record for quarterbacks, obviously. So that's actually pretty light. 7 touchdowns rushing is pretty light considering the yards. So for me, he's sitting there at, 43 touchdowns total. I don't think that it's out of the question that he can at least surpass 50 total touchdowns. I'm not saying he's going to be, Patrick Mahomes throwing for 50 touchdowns, but he could definitely get closer to 40 and 10 and push that 50 touchdown mark. So if you're drafting him in fantasy, I think he's probably, if not the first, he's definitely minimum the second quarterback taken after Patrick Mahomes. And like I said, I think there's a decent potential that he progresses and takes another step forward in 2019. So let's take a look at the rest of the offense here. That's obviously the quarterback position, which again, I'll actually continue with this. Greg Roman and John Harbaugh have clearly completely bought into this style of football. This RPO running quarterback style of football. They've put all their chips into Lamar Jackson's basket, in my opinion. Not only with bringing in Robert Griffin III, who plays relatively quite a bit similar, obviously at a lower kind of level, but then the drafting of Trace McSorley last year, and then even picking up Tyler Huntley this year. They've completely bought into this style, this brand of football. Run the ball, pound the ball, score touchdowns, run and gun. That's who the Ravens are going to be. That's just it. So Let's take a look at the rest of the roster. Running backs, obviously they bring back Mark Ingram, who is a quality running back, had 1,000 yards last year, I think 10 touchdowns. So very, very quality running back. And then Gus Edwards had 700 yards last year. That's a lot for a backup. The Ravens obviously set crazy records with 3,200 rushing yards last year. They had about 1,000 more rushing yards than the second place team. Obviously, I know that's basically due to Lamar Jackson, but that's and they only improved at the running back position with drafting J.K. Dobbins, who I had as my number one running back heading into the draft. We'll see what happens, and obviously, guys, depends on where they go, especially at running back. But either way, they've only gotten better at the running back position for a team that's already a very, very good running team. So that looks great. Patrick Ricard is still, Ricard is still the 300-pound fullback that they have there, who doubles as a defensive lineman as well. Nick Boyle is one of the better blocking tight ends in the NFL, and then Mark Andrews is one of the better receiving tight ends in the NFL. So they've got extreme balance everywhere. In my opinion, they have one of the best backfields in the NFL, the complete backfield with Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, J.K. Dobbins, and Mark Ingram, one of the best in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, very good tight ends. Wide receivers, I like Miles Boykin. He's about him and Chase Claypool come from the same school, Notre Dame. They're basically carbon copies of each other. 6'4", ran a 4.42, both of them. So they're very, very similar. I really like the way Chase Claypool looks this year, and they're going to play against each other twice a year for the foreseeable future. But if Miles Boykin can, obviously it's going to come down to Lamar throwing for more passing yards, but 3,100 is pretty light in 15 games. Let's say he bumps that up even. If you add one more game on there, that's almost 3,400 yards. If he increases that even to say 3,800, the Ravens are going to have a 1,000-yard receiver and a few more touchdowns, that kind of thing. And Miles Boykin is a guy that I think can benefit from that. Obviously, his measurables are fantastic, and then you got a lot of speed, spreading the field for him. So even 4.42, that's great speed. So, but Hollywood Brown, Devin Duvernay, James Prochet, even DeAnthony Thomas, if you want to throw him in there, all speedsters who can spread the field, open it up for Willie Snead underneath, Mark Andrews underneath. This team is just stacked. This team is absolutely stacked, top to bottom, offense and defense. But let's continue with the offense. On the offensive line, they got two very good tackles. Ronnie Stanley and then Orlando Brown are very good tackles. They're a little weak up the middle. That's my only kind of issue with the offensive line in the Ravens. And the entire offense with the Ravens is they're just a little weak up the middle. They had a couple of kind of later round, I think fourth and sixth or fourth and fifth for Tyree Phillips and Ben Bredesen. So they're kind of, and DJ Fluker they picked up as well, former first round pick out of Bama. But they're still pretty weak up the middle. I'm not gonna lie. They allowed 28 sacks last year, which is, it's very good. It was top 10 in the league. And especially with the way that Lamar Jackson plays, he's obviously running around back there and throws a lot of balls away if he gets into trouble or he runs the ball. So he doesn't take a ton of sacks. But I'd like to see them shore up. Maybe if those guys, if like Ben Powers and Bradley Bozeman can take a step forward this year, then I think that they'll be that much better. But that's the only weakness that they have. And they got Andre Smith as a backup, like I said, DJ Fluker. So they're extremely complete on offense and defense. But let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Last year they had 37 sacks as a team. They only allowed 15 passing touchdowns, which was tied for second behind the Patriots, who have one of the best backfields in the NFL. I'm not sure I mean, it's quite good. Like Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, and Earl Thomas, they're definitely probably a top 5 unit on the back end, just the back end. Earl Thomas obviously is a very, very, very good safety and kind of a ball hawk back there and a very good leader for that team. Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters, again, very good corners. Anthony Averett can still kind of get it done. Jimmy Smith, even their backups aren't horrid. They're definitely not hurting them at all. If there's, say, an injury or something like that, they can stomach it. Taven Young, and then they as far as pass rushers, this is where it gets interesting. Like I said, 37 sacks. It's definitely in the bottom half of the league last year. That's kind of the only place that they kind of lacked last year, was getting at the quarterback. So what do? Go out and grab Derek Wolfe, trade for Calais Campbell, draft Justin Madubuike, Patrick Queen, Malik Harrison, the franchised Matt Judon. I mean, this team is just so stacked. It's scary. So we'll get to their record prediction in a second, but in all honesty, top to bottom, offense and defense, coaching, everything, this team is absolutely stacked, which really pains me because I'm a fan of another team in the AFC North. So, and it doesn't look like anything's going to change anytime soon. So the Ravens look really, really good and have one of the best complete rosters in the NFL. So with that, let's take a look at the record prediction and the schedule coming up in 2020. All right, let's take a look at the schedule and prediction for the Baltimore Ravens. As you can see, yep, on the high side, 16-0. You're telling me a team that finished 14-2 last year and only improved on every aspect of their team. You're telling me it's impossible that they go 16-0? I don't think so. I mean, it's possible. It's on the high side. I'm not saying that's my prediction. Obviously, you see my prediction there, 13-3, which I think is relatively conservative of me. But it's not impossible this team goes undefeated in 2020. Let's take a look. First week, Cleveland at home. They lost to Cleveland at home last year, which is key because they're not going to be very happy about it, and they're really going to want to get that win, especially in week 1. So I think they definitely get that win, move on to Houston, and here's going to be kind of the trump for, I mean, any team that's built like this, the trump card for them is their defense is just way better than most teams. So if a team matches up with them offensively, like maybe Houston, you could think that they could match up offensively, and obviously the Chiefs for sure. The trump card is the Ravens defense is head and shoulders better than the Texans and a fair bit better than the Chiefs. I think the Texans do not have a very good defense, especially in the secondary. They do have some guys that can get after the quarterback, but their secondary is quite weak. So either way, they go into Houston. I see them getting that win without too many issues, just because their defense is so much better than the Texans and their offense is better than the Texans as well. Let's be honest here. Moving on to the Chiefs. This one's at home. Last year, they played the Chiefs and lost in Kansas City, which is a very tough game. Obviously, it's just tough to play the Chiefs anywhere, but to play them at Arrowhead is even makes it that much more difficult. It's obviously known as being a very loud, tough place to play. So, and it was a shootout, and they're in the game. There's no harm in, losing that game is nothing to hang your head about. But now they're getting a shot to play them in Baltimore. So, again, they're going to be not happy about taking that loss last year. They're getting them in their backyard. It should be a very interesting game. At Washington, they're going to win that game. Versus my Bengals, they're going to win that game. This is actually a tough game at Philly in Week 6. That's a tough game. Philly has quite a good offense and defense. I really like their defense. I think they have a Super Bowl caliber defense. I'm not saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. But the Philadelphia Eagles have a Super Bowl caliber defense. So it could give the Ravens some troubles. And they obviously improved exponentially speed-wise at wide receiver for the Eagles, as long as they can stay relatively healthy and some of those guys take a step forward and there's some creative play calling in Philadelphia, that could be a really tough game, and it's a tough place to play too. So that could be a tough game for the Ravens. And then at home against the Steelers, I mean, it depends on how you feel about the Steelers. You'll find out if you watch my Steelers one how I feel about them. I think the Ravens most certainly get that win, especially at home. Then they got the bye week. So if they're going to their bye, I honestly think it's a worst case scenario that they're 5-2. That's kind of a worst case scenario for me, for the Ravens in their first 7 games. And it's very possible that they go 7-0. Obviously, if you see my high end prediction, I think it's possible they go 16-0. So we'll see, but I think it's very, very possible they're 6-1. I think that's 5-2 would be extremely conservative. 6-1 is pretty realistic. 7-0 is possible. So they come out of their bye, and they go to Indianapolis. That's a relatively tough game because that team has improved, but again, the Ravens defense is exponentially better than the Colts defense. It's just quite a bit better. They did improve obviously with adding Buckner, but it's a bunch better than the Colts defense, and their offense is better. At New England, they beat them last year. They beat the Patriots last year. I know it's in Foxborough in November, but that offense is just very much better than the Patriots, and the defense, again, very much better. The secondaries are very comparable. You could even say for sure, you could say that the Patriots have a better secondary than the Ravens, but they do not have better pass rushers. They do not have a better offense, not even close. So I think that the Sunday night game, it's obviously prime time. I think the Ravens get that done. At home against the Titans, they get that win. At the Steelers, I think they still get that win, even in Pittsburgh. Even at Heinz Stadium, I still think they get that win. At home against Dallas, Dallas's offense can keep up. Don't get me wrong on that. Their offense can absolutely keep up. But again, the trump card is the Ravens defense is just exponentially better than the Cowboys defense. So will they be able to put up points? Yeah, sure. But will they be able to put up points and stop the Ravens? I just don't see that happening. So especially in Baltimore, I think they get that win. At Cleveland is going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough game in Cleveland. Obviously, it depends on how the Cleveland Browns season goes, but anything less than being a winning team at this point or a winning team for the entire season for the Browns is going to be a complete disappointment and basically an utter failure of a season. So I think that this is going to be a very tough game for them at this point in the season. We will see, but I think this might be their toughest game in a while. I mean, New England in Foxborough in November, Dallas is a tough game. Kansas City is obviously a tough game. Philly is a tough game. But divisional game, the Browns are very much improved. They can match up in a lot of places with the Ravens. So that's a tough game. Jacksonville, they get the win. Giants, they get the win. And then the only way my Bengals get the win is if the Ravens are sitting Lamar and friends, and then the Bengals are looking to be, I don't know, 8-8 or something like that. But I don't expect my Bengals to win that game if it's a game that the Ravens need to win. I think that the Ravens get that win against the Cincinnati Bengals. So, I mean, looking at this schedule, it's not crazy. It's not crazy to say that they have a perfect season. I don't think. Is it very likely? No. I mean, 2 teams have done it in the history of NFL. So I really don't think that they do it. Obviously, my pick is there, but it's possible. They're a very good team, very well coached. They can match up with any team. They were the best team in the league last year. It's possible. So to win the division, even at 1.44, put it in a parlay. There's no other. I mean, I'm probably not picking any other team. This is one of the most sure things for me. It's a pretty sure thing for me that the Ravens win this division, and I'm honestly surprised it's not lower. And to be honest, it could fall down. You could get better odds closer to the season, depending on how kind of betting, if it gets bet up, which is possible. Because I mean, the Browns at 6-1, that's a good value. People still think the Steelers are a playoff team and a division winning caliber team. I don't see it, but that's what people think. Obviously, the odds makers think that they have a better shot than the Browns, which is crazy to me. 26-1 for my Bengals. I'll get to that when I do their video. But either way, I mean, the Ravens were the best team in the NFL last year, and they only got better. Tell me I'm wrong. So I think it's possible that they could go 16-0, but I think I'm being conservative, giving them 13-3. And I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL this year, a Super Bowl contender if they can finally get the monkey off their back and win a playoff game, which I think they will. I think they will do it, and I think it'll happen this year. I think they're a great team. Everything about them just reeks Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens. They gotta play the games and they gotta win. We don't play this game on paper, so they gotta get out there and do it. And I think they do this year. But there you go. There's my breakdown of the Baltimore Ravens. Let me know what you think in the comments.